morning. You're watching the Breakfast News with me, Ishan Rasul, right here on Rajya Sabha TV. First up, a very happy Diwali to all our viewers from our entire team over here at Rajya Sabha TV. And these are the headlines that we're tracking right now. The BJP grapples with infighting over the Bihar poll debacle. Veterans slam Modi and Amit Shah for not owning up responsibility. Party says it's following precedents of collective responsibility set by Vajpayee and Advani. In a big push for FDI reforms, the government eases control in 15 sectors, including mining, civil aviation, defence, broadcasting, construction. Investment norms also relax for companies controlled by NRIs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to begin a 5-day tour of UK and Turkey. Issues related to economy, security and energy to dominate discussions. And Myanmar prepares to shrug off decades of army control. Opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi's party on the verge of a landslide election victory. The big story this morning, the BJP's resounding defeat in Bihar has triggered an infight between the old guard and the present leadership. Veterans L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi, Yashwant Sinha and Shanta Kumar issued a joint statement last night demanding that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his close aide and party chief Amit Shah accept responsibility for the electoral rout. Replying to the attacks, the BJP stated that they are following the precedents of collective responsibility for such failures.
BJP's veteran leaders have launched a scathing criticism on the present leadership for the debacle in the Bihar polls. Veteran leaders Murli Manohar Joshi, Yashwant Sinha and Shanta Kumar met L.K. Advani last evening. Later they issued a statement in which they said that the party has not learned its lessons from the fiasco in Delhi Assembly polls. It slammed the party's stand not to hold anyone individually responsible for the debacle, saying those who led the party in polls are shrugging off responsibility. The leaders also recommended a thorough review to find the reasons for the debacle. The criticism reflects the rumbling within the party since the massive defeat on Sunday. More leaders voiced dissent, targeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi and party chief Amit Shah.
ये पार्टी का सर्वनाश है और पार्टी के सर्वनाश से सबसे ज्यादा विपत्ति भारत की अस्मिता की होगी। चुनाव के कैंपेन के तो जिम्मेवार हैं, मोदी भी जिम्मेवार हैं, सब कुछ तो उन्हीं की राय मशवरे से हुआ है। अगर जीत से उनका सेहरा मिलता है तो हार से क्यों नहीं उनको आलोचना होगी, क्यों नहीं जिम्मेवार माना जाएगा।
However, later last night, 3 BJP ministers, Rajnath Singh, Nitin Gadkari and Venkaiah Naidu issued a counter statement. Replying to the outburst from the veterans, they said that the former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and L.K. Advani had set a precedent to collectively take responsibility for any outcome. On Monday, the group of 12 top BJP leaders called the Parliamentary Board, which includes PM Modi and Amit Shah. They met and assessed that no one could be blamed for the Bihar defeat. Home Minister Rajnath Singh and Finance Minister Arun Jaitley also ruled out putting blame on Modi alone. However, opposition parties did not lose the opportunity to take a dig at BJP.
Nation is caught up in a personality cult where one individual has become bigger than 125 crore Indians. In democracy, there is no place for the word I, because democracy's fundamental is founded upon the word we.
कलेक्टिव लीडरशिप वाली पार्टी थी, कार्डर बेस्ड पार्टी थी, वैसी पार्टी को आपने हाईजैक कर लिया है। तो हम समझते हैं कि पार्टी को उनके चंगुल से निकालने की और वो भी जरूरी समझ रहे हैं वो लोग, और इसलिए जरूरी समझ रहे हैं कि ये तो देश के सामाजिक ताना बाना को ही तहस नहस कर रहे हैं।
The outburst by veterans and voices of dissent have made infight in BJP over the poll debacle public. It has also raised questions over Modi's popularity chart within the party after back-to-back poll routs in Delhi and Bihar. It remains to be seen if the party will make necessary changes before another crucial year ahead, with at least 3 big states going to polls. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, eyeing big-ticket investments, the government today announced that it will ease FDI norms in 15 sectors. While 100% FDI has been allowed in DTH, cable network and plantation crop, overseas investment limit in uplinking of news and current affairs TV channels has been raised to 49%. The announcement comes a day ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United Kingdom.
After the Bihar election results, now comes the big reform push. The government is relaxing foreign investment rules in 15 sectors.
Foreign direct investment is an additionality of resource. This additionality of resource is required if the cycle of economic activity has to go on. We still need a very large resource both for infrastructure, for new initiatives like Startup India, Skill India, Make in India. And as I said, foreign investment is certainly an important additionality of resource.
In a series of tweets, the Prime Minister said that the decision to ease FDI norms demonstrates the government's unwavering commitment to development and reforms.
Well, after the Bihar results were out, many were questioning the government on the reforms. And certainly today's bold step taken by the government in easing the FDI sector, bringing reforms. The World Bank has already recognized India's position on ease of doing business, and certainly the Modi government has honored the commitment given to the voters before the election and the mandate they receive for economic growth and development.
FDI has been eased in construction, real estate, defense, broadcasting and LLPs. While 100% FDI was allowed in DTH, cable network and plantation crops, overseas investment limit in uplinking of news and current affairs TV channels has been raised to 49% from the current 26%.
देखिए, जहाँ तक हमारी पार्टी का सवाल है, हम इस फेवर में हैं कि FDI आए, फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट आना चाहिए देश में. ज़रूरत है हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था को दुरुस्त और चुस्त बनाने में. लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी FDI ला रही है, ये हमको ताज्जुब जरूर हो रहा है कि यही भारतीय जनता पार्टी है जिसने कई सेक्टर में विरोध किया था जब वो विपक्ष में थे.
Government is withering away from its responsibilities. 100% FDI in 15 sectors. This is a very serious agenda. So this is precisely the response, because he may be telling that Achhe Din is coming, but in reality the people of the country are in doldrums. The gap between shining and suffering in India is increasing, and with the opening up of these 15 sectors, 100% FDI if allowed in these 15 sectors, it will be a bonanza for the fat cats and the big corporates.
The government also relaxed conditions for FDI in single brand retail and allowed 100% FDI under automatic route in duty-free shops and limited liability partnership, and eased foreign investment norms in the defense sector.
It has come at a very, very appropriate time, I would say, because after the drubbing the ruling party and ruling dispensation got in Bihar election, there was a question mark in the minds of investors, not only local, domestic, but international, especially institutional investors, whether the current regime, current government can pursue their economic agenda for which people were betting heavily.
The government has called the decision a Diwali gift for the investors and the biggest bang reform of the government. Bureau Report.
Ahead of the winter session of Parliament, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin a two-nation tour of the United Kingdom and Turkey today. In fact, the economy, security and energy are expected to dominate the Prime Minister's agenda during bilateral talks in Britain and at the G20 summit in Turkey. His UK visit will also include a grand reception at the Wembley Stadium on Friday, which is billed as the biggest political rally in the history of the United Kingdom.
18 months after coming to power, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting United Kingdom for the first time. Starting Wednesday, he will be in UK for the next 3 days, during which he will hold bilateral talks with the leadership, including Prime Minister David Cameron. Issues like security, anti-terror campaign are some of the key agendas on PM's list to do. An estimated $15 billion trade and investment deals are expected from Modi's UK visit.
There would be a lot of political and security related discussions both on global and regional issues.
Before his visit, Modi contributed an article on the Sunday Times about his expectations from the visit. He pinned hope for more foreign investments from UK to boost economy. Food security, climate change are some of the other issues on which he hopes to have cooperation from UK. The Prime Minister will meet the Queen and also attend a grand reception at the iconic Wembley Stadium on the last day of his visit. He is also scheduled to address the Indian diaspora in an event described as Olympic style. However, opposition parties have come out slamming PM's frequent visits abroad.
Nothing comes out of these visits except a bit of chest thumping here and there. And considering that people of India are rejecting him, so maybe his hunger for crowds abroad is what takes him out of the country ever so often.
अब बिहार में और देश में तो उनके भ्रमण के लिए कुछ कम ही जगह बची है। अब वो विदेश में रह करके NRI प्रधानमंत्री का टैग लिए घूमते रहें, यही उनके लिए अच्छा है।
Fresh from the poll defeat in Bihar, Modi has to now assure Britain that opposition will not stall key reforms and that business will not be hampered. Modi will be the first Indian Prime Minister to visit UK in a decade. UK had boycotted Modi for 10 years after the 2002 riots when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar criticised army veterans who decided to return their medals in protest against the delay in implementing the One Rank One pension scheme and urged the ex-servicemen to put their grievances before the Pay Commission. The veterans have been protesting against some of the clauses in the scheme for the past 5 months.
Retired military personnel are unhappy over their demands not fulfilled in the One Rank One pension scheme. The ex-servicemen who have been protesting at Jantar Mantar in Delhi since June have rejected the notification issued by Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar on Saturday. Protesting army veterans have opposed the scheme in its present form. As a mark of protest, they gathered outside the Indira Gandhi International Airport to return their medals.
ये डिमांड तो बहुत पुरानी है और गवर्नमेंट ने सैंक्शन भी कर दिया था, उसको 17 महीने हो गए। वन रैंक वन पेंशन जो सैंक्शन है 2 पार्लियामेंट से, सरकार ने इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किया था, हम एजिटेशन कर रहे हैं। 149 दिन में है, अभी सरकार ने 7 तारीख को जो नोटिफिकेशन इशू किया है वो वन रैंक वन पेंशन नहीं है।
वार के लेटर हमें नहीं दे रहे हैं, अभी तक हमारा चालू रहेगा 24 घंटे वाला, जितनी ज्यादा वार के लेटर हमें नहीं देंगे।
However, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar criticised the protesting ex-servicemen. Terming the implementation of the scheme as one of the major achievements, Parrikar said that not all demands of the veterans could be met.
Almost all the major aspect of OROP has been complied with. Plus, a commission is being put up. That commission will look into any other small matters if they are remaining. अगर किसी की तकरार है, कंप्लेन है, वो दे सकता है उधर, उसको मेडल रिटर्न करने की जरूरत नहीं है। और कोई अगर ये बाद में इतना करने के बाद भी अगर कोई करना चाहता है तो डेमोक्रेसी परमिट्स एवरीवन, आई कैन नॉट स्टॉप एनीवन।
The notification is more or less in line with what Parrikar had announced on September 5th. However, it has dropped the proposal to exclude ex-servicemen who had sought premature retirement from the ambit of OROP. But the armed forces personnel who opt to get discharged on their request would henceforth not get OROP benefits. The scheme is likely to benefit over 24 lakh ex-servicemen and 6 lakh war widows in the country. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, one person died in Karnataka on Tuesday amid clashes over the celebration of the birth anniversary of Tipu Sultan. The victim, reportedly an activist of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, died while trying to escape a baton charge by police during a stone-throwing protest. The BJP has called for an investigation into the death.
The Karnataka government's decision to celebrate Tipu Sultan's birth anniversary turned violent on Tuesday. The trouble started when police used tear gas and batons to disperse hundreds who were protesting against government's move in Kodaga district. A local VHP leader died and several others, including policemen, were injured as violence erupted. Prohibitory orders have been clamped in the district and additional reinforcements have been sent to bring the situation under control.
There was a likelihood of a clash between the two groups. So to prevent that clash, there was a mild lathi charge to ensure that these people get dispersed from the GT circle.
The VHP, RSS, Bajrang Dal and BJP organized dozens of protests in Kodagu and other parts of the states in the last few weeks, describing Tipu Sultan as a religious bigot who tormented Hindus. However, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah condemned the incident and accused the BJP of trying to disturb communal harmony.
This is because of this try to disturb the communal harmony, and they have called the Bandh today in Kodagu. They should not have. We are celebrating, the government is celebrating Tipu Jayanti. Why they have called the Bandh?
It is unfortunate that a man has been killed. It's regrettable. But at the same time, I totally condemn the protest against the Tipu Sultan centenary celebration.
There should be a judicial inquiry into it, and I demand this PFD and KFD, whatever it is, all these organizations which are the running this activity, they have to be banned.
BJP has called for an investigation into the death of the VHP activist. Despite no flare-up in the situation, Kodagu remains tense over the violence. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now take a look at other national news stories and nationwide. India's latest communication satellite, GSAT-15, was successfully launched early today. It was launched by the Ariane 5 rocket from the Kourou spaceport in French Guiana. The satellite is designed to deliver telecommunication services as well as dedicated navigation aid and emergency services. Kerala Chief Minister Oommen Chandy has accepted the resignation of State Finance Minister K.M. Mani. He resigned last night in the wake of the High Court observations against him in the bar bribery scam. Government Chief Whip Thomas Uniyadan also announced his resignation in solidarity with his leader. A conclave by several Sikh groups picked Jagtar Singh Hawara, a convict in the Brian Singh assassination case, as the head priest of the Akal Takht. The parallel conclave was opposed by the Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. It insisted that such a congregation could only be called by the Akal Takht Jatadar at the Golden Temple. This comes in the backdrop of calls by radicals to remove Sikh high priest over the controversial pardon granted to Dera Sakha Sauda Chief Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh. Time for us to take a very quick break. On the other side, UK Prime Minister David Cameron sets a 4-point proposal for EU reforms before 2017 to decide its future in the group. And the nation is celebrating the Festival of Rights, and Barack Obama sends his greetings to Prime Minister Modi.
Get live Rajya Sabha session. News, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching The Breakfast News. Some international news now, and Myanmar's opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi vowed that she will call the shots after her party wins a clear mandate in the just concluded presidential polls. Vote counting is still on and final results will be out in a few days. Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy looks all set to gain a two-third majority in the parliament to form the next government.
Simply that, above the president, I make all the decisions because I'm the leader of the winning party. And the president will be one whom we will choose just in order to meet the requirements of the constitution.
Brimming with confidence, Myanmar's democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi vowed to call shots in the new government, irrespective of who will be appointed as the new president, clearly defying military's attempt to clip her wings. She cannot become the president as Myanmar's constitution does not allow people with foreign offspring to hold the top post. Results declared so far indicates that her National League for Democracy is heading for a resounding victory. NLD has won 78 of 88 seats announced so far for the 440-seat lower house of the parliament.
Whether it's a military or any other body, cooperation and collaboration is something you have to work at. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to learn to build it up by working. You just don't do it in a theoretical way. So how we deal with the situation depends on how the situation evolves. It's not something you can set hard and fast rules for. They will have to be open to negotiations as soon as we form a government.
The opposition warned of possible foul play as the results are being announced in a slow pace. Meanwhile, the observers said that Myanmar's elections were flawed, but the country is on the path to a peaceful democratic transition. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon congratulated people for their enthusiasm in the historic elections.
Is to urge the UEC over the next day or two or week to make sure that they are encouraging the publication of results at the township level and at the subcommission level, especially with respect to the out of constituency advance voting, to ensure that the results are transparent, the tabulation process is transparent.
Even if Suu Kyi's NLD forms Myanmar's first democratically elected government in over 5 decades, the army still remains a formidable power. In addition to its guaranteed block of parliament seats, the Commander-in-Chief nominates the heads of 3 powerful and big-budget ministries: Interior, Defence and Border Security. The Constitution also gives Army the right to take over the government under certain circumstances. However, the Army has said that it will accept the outcome of the election. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The British Prime Minister David Cameron has outlined his 4 goals for reforming the country's membership of the European Union. He formally set out his demands in a letter to the President of the European Council, saying 4 objectives lie at the heart of the UK's renegotiations. It includes restrictions on benefits for people coming to the UK.
British Prime Minister David Cameron has formally launched his bid to renegotiate UK's membership in the European Union. Cameron has written to the European Council President Donald Tusk outlining 4 broad conditions for renegotiating a better deal for Britain. The letter will pave the way for detailed negotiations between Britain and the EU. Cameron has pledged to hold an in or out referendum on whether Britain should withdraw from the EU by 2017. Cameron highlighted his 4 objectives for the British renegotiation bid, including protecting the single market for Britain and others outside the Eurozone, exempting Britain from ever closer union and bolstering national parliaments, limiting the benefit for EU migrants in the UK and enhancing competitiveness in the EU.
These proposals are substantial. I think you can see from what I've said, if we change ever closer union, set the relationship properly between the euro ins and outs, deliver a really competitive Europe, solve the problem of the excessive levels of migration. These are the things that people, me included, are concerned about with Europe.
However, the European Union said that Cameron's request to limit the rights of EU citizens to work in other member states as highly problematic. But the European Commission assured to work closely with the UK to come out with a deal.
The Commission considers the Prime Minister's letter as the beginning, not the end of the negotiation. And as President Juncker has repeatedly stated, we stand ready to work for a fair deal with Britain that is also fair for all the other member states.
Cameron had earlier said that he wanted Britain to remain in a reformed EU, but he also hinted that he would not rule out allowing his country to leave the bloc if his renegotiation demands were not met. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's have a look at all the international stories in World Wrap now. Syrian forces recaptured a military airbase in Aleppo that was under siege by Islamic State for nearly 2 years. The Syrian army said that the soldiers fought their way into the airbase and freed hundreds of military personnel inside. This is the most high-profile victory for Syria's army since Russia launched an air campaign in support of President Assad. Former West German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt died on Tuesday, the age of 96. Schmidt was West Germany's Chancellor from 1974 to 1982. He's said to be the architect of the European monetary system. He also helped consolidate Germany's post-war economic boom. Portugal's ruling centre-right government has been forced to resign in less than 2 weeks of coming to power. An alliance of leftist politicians rejected its policy proposals and paved the way for a socialist-led administration to end years of austerity. The minority government had warned that a retreat on austerity could put Portugal on a similar path as Greece. Around 11 million children are at risk from hunger, disease and water shortages in eastern and southern Africa because of the strengthening El Nino. Scientists say rising temperatures and drought conditions are threatening food security in the region. They fear it could lead to a crisis if the weather in the region does not improve soon. Now, US President Barack Obama called up Prime Minister Narendra Modi to greet him on Diwali. Prime Minister Modi tweeted the greeting shared between the two leaders. Adding to the list, UK Prime Minister David Cameron greeted the Indian diaspora and lauded the community for their incredible contribution. President Pranab Mukherjee and Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari also greeted the people on the festival and urged them to celebrate it in a pollution-free manner. Of course, India's biggest and favorite festival, the Festival of Lights, Diwali, is here, and the best way to celebrate is shop and decorate. So here's a look at how the national capital is gearing up for the day.
The Diwali Mela itself a modern concept, bringing together all the different colors of the festival under a single symbolic umbrella. Annual Diwali Mela, small or big, is an occasion to bond with our cultural roots. Acquaint children with the wealth of India's cultural heritage while enjoying the commercial delights of modern entertainment.
दिवाली हमारे लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण रखता है और दिवाली हमारे जीवन में उजाला फैलाता है। दिवाली में हम सभी बच्चे बूढ़े सब एक होकर के भाईचारा भी निभाते हैं और एक दूसरे के गले लगकर सबको मिठाइयाँ सारे गिफ्ट वगैरह हम बांटते हैं। इसलिए दिवाली तो हमें बहुत बहुत पसंद है।
Diwali or Deepavali literally means a row of earthen lamps. Light and prosperity and joy are the festival's essential themes. And lighting the diya has taken on many contemporary forms. Here's a unique one using bottles. Bottles of liquor or ketchup or other flowers are recycled to give rise to these stunning masterpieces.
बस यूं ही हम रोडों पे चलते रहते हैं तो बोतलें इधर उधर पड़ी रहती है, तो हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना इसको उठा के कुछ नया करें। उस वेस्ट बोतल को हमने लेके ये यूज किया है।
Delhi Haat seems to be the heart for the shopping lovers, be it the usual times or the festive season. So this year again it is back with its annual Diwali Mela, the Deep Utsav, which offers a wide variety of fashion, the rich culture, the beautiful lights and the stunning lamps. That adds to the joy of people. With this, I wish you all a very happy and a safe Diwali. With camera person Munish, Ravleen Kaur for Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, that's it from us. Happy Diwali to all of you. Go out and celebrate. Thanks so much for watching.